Hello there to all our listeners. Welcome to another episode of Geeked Out. My name is Kyle.
And I'm on.
And first off, we'd like to wish everyone a happy new year and glad to have you here with us. So this week we decided to jump back into a movie that I think I would like to say is near and dear to at least my heart. I'm guessing it is yours as well. We watched 2004's Mean Girls. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, have seen this movie. I hope so, if you're listening to a podcast about it.
I
This
mean,
movie,
if you're around our age,
this was a big movie.
you definitely have seen this movie.
Yeah. No, this movie was released April 30th. Sorry, what?
I said if you're a little bit younger, maybe not. But if you're definitely around our age, around in your 30s, you've seen this movie.
I think even people younger than us have probably seen it. And I'm only saying that because I feel like a lot of people, when they hit that like teenager age, they that's when they start finding teenage movies. Like I'm sure we did with like teenage movies from the 80s and things like that were made well before our time. But
that's true.
Yeah. So this movie was released April 30th in 2004. I cannot believe this movie is going to be 20 years old this year. But it has a 7.1 out of 10 rating on IMDb. It has a critic rating of 84% on Rotten Tomatoes with an audience score of 66%. I'm kind of surprised that the audience score is that low.
It's strange.
But, I mean, usually with something like this, you would expect a movie like this, typically because it's a comedy, you would expect the critic score to be much lower than the audience score, at least in terms of the way things usually go.
Exactly.
So this movie was directed by Mark Waters, and it was written by Tina Fey, obviously of Saturday Night Live fame, and eventually the show 30 Rock. I didn't realize this movie was based on a book called Queen Bees and Wannabes by a woman named Rosalind Wiseman. And what's odd is I looked up the book. It's not. I assumed like, oh, a movie is based on a book. I assumed it was like a novel. It's not a. It's not a novel. What it is it's basically it's like a guide. It's like she wrote a guide for parents who have teenage daughters and what they're going to like, how to deal with them as teenagers and things like this. And I'm guessing Tina Fey found it or read this book or something like that, and she just kind of took what was written in it about the vitriol and the cattiness, I guess, of the way teenage girls can behave, and she made this movie. And yeah, I was kind of blown away at that. I expected it to be a novel. I didn't expect it to be a parental guide of how to deal with teenagers.
Yeah, it's because it's unorthodox. It was not really. You would assume it was a novel, but as opposed to like a guidebook. That's interesting. So it was more of an inspiration.
Yeah, I think there might have been stuff in it that she used as examples, and she just kind of put them into the movie, but it's not like it was a beat for beat. She wrote the movie the way the book was read.
Okay.
But cool. So this movie is starring Lindsay Lohan, very very young Lindsay Lohan, Rachel McAdams. There's Amanda Seyfried, Lacey Chabert, Jonathan Bennett, Lizzie Kaplan, and then you've also got Tina Fey and Tim Meadows as well. I mean,
whoa. You also have one of the former, I think it was for the Midnight Society, Are You Afraid of the Dark cast members. I forget the character's name. It's the guy that he gets the radio slammed in his face.
Oh my God, he was on Are You Afraid of the Dark?
I'm pretty sure.
Hang on, I'm gonna look that up as we are live on the air. I need to check this out. That's kind of funny. If I mean, I knew that when I watched the movie, he did look familiar. So either it is him or it's somebody who looks a hell of a lot like him. Let's see. So his name is Daniel DeSanto, and so Are You Afraid of the Dark? That was early to mid '90s.
Yeah, he's the kid that wore the cat backwards, right? Cat backwards, cat backwards kid, I believe.
It's I believe it is him. It shows him in an Are You Afraid of the Dark? I don't know if it's a movie or an episode on his IMDb list. Well, that's a good call. He was in a bunch of stuff in the '90s, a lot of voiceover work. Yep. Are You
Mm.
Afraid of the Dark? There it is. He played a character named Tucker. Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
that's kind of having my mind blown there for a second.
I typically don't forget a face, and as soon as I seen him, I had the same thing as you. Like I knew I seen him somewhere, and then I went through the Rolodex, and I was like, "Yep, that's he's part of that Midnight Society." But yeah, sorry people for the detour there,
Oh, we tend to do that quite often.
right?
But I mean, it happens with stuff like this. You just things
But
come up and you think about
you're
them, and
listing the cast and their accomplishments. I just wanted to point out how much of a star he was.
well,
To me.
especially, I mean, if you were a fan of Are You Afraid of the Dark, and I mean, let's face it, a lot of us growing up around here, I'm sure were.
I love that show. That's what we got to do. We should do a show like or like an episode where we favorite top kids shows.
I'm down because I got a lot of them.
We'd have to go 90s.
Well, yeah, because we were kids in the '90s.
But yeah, true. But I kept watching cartoons throughout the 2000s. So
Oh yeah, absolutely.
my list is would definitely extend to that if there was no time frame.
I think I would probably try to keep it more towards shows that I watched as a kid.
Right.
But I digress. No, this if you look at this cast list alone,
Yeah,
it, the,
surprisingly, like most of the main cast members, the stars, um, they are still, they're still doing work today. They're known. They're still pretty big celebrities. They've
oh
all
yeah,
made,
they went on to do massive things.
yeah, they've all had pretty strong careers.
I mean, Lindsay Lohan, I would say, well, Lacey Chabert kind of from what I've seen from her is her being in a lot of those Hallmark type movies,
Yeah, she's a art queen.
which is fine. I mean, you know what? If you can get that kind of work and it's consistent, go for it. I mean, I no
Hey,
hate on that because that's her career and that's she's doing well at it. But
I can't.
unfortunately, the whole thing with Lindsay Lohan, she had a really promising career that kind of got derailed there for a little while.
She was her own worst enemy. She let, or she unfortunately the what happen to a lot of famous child stars that grew up in that world. They, you know, they got infected by all that, the fame and drugs and all that, and unfortunately, she ruined her own career because if she hadn't have done that, she would have. Who knows? She could have done very, very well, and it seemed like she was getting role after role after role, very promising career, and it was just she fortunately damaged it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. unfortunately, like you say, she did that. She was her own worst enemy. But I did see that. I think it was just this past year. She actually came out with a Christmas movie. So I'm wondering if maybe she's kind of trying to straighten things out and kind of get back into the acting career because I mean, as this and several other movies around this time frame showed, she had a very promising career. She was a very strong presence on screen,
Yeah,
and I mean, she was enjoyable to watch. I mean, right back in the first movie I saw her in was The Parent Trap as a kid.
bro.
Um, she was great in that, and she was great in this movie as well.
She was one of my first, had to be one of my first crushes, because for whatever reason, that summer when I had the videotape of The Parent Trap, I literally watched it over and over and over and over. As soon as it was done, I would fucking rewind that motherfucker and start watching it again. And
Yeah,
I, it was because had a crush on Lindsay Lohan, but I didn't know at the time why.
yeah, I get what you're saying. I was kind of the same way. I watched that movie quite a bit, um,
I
and
just
then I actually watched it not long ago. I was just happened to see it. It was on, and I watched it for a little while. And even that, she was really good in. In this movie, she's great. You can really see that talent coming through. And even if you go through other movies that she did, like around this time frame, like she had that Freaky Friday with Jamie Lee Curtis. I think the other one was Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen. They're not
yeah.
they're not great movies, but she's really good in them. She's a very powerful presence on film.
Are you
And
forgetting Herbie, Fully Loaded?
I don't think I've ever seen Fully Loaded.
Herbie, is it called Herbie?
Oh no, I never saw that. I never saw Herbie or the Love Bug, whatever they called it.
It was aight.
No, I never saw that.
It was aight. It's okay that you skipped it. It was okay.
I will say, to me, yes, Lindsay Lohan is the star, but every time anybody talks about Mean Girls, the first thing that comes to my mind is Rachel McAdams.
Well, for me, it is Lindsay Lohan, just because for me it's like her definitive role, and Rachel McAdams have gone on to do other like iconic roles in other movies. Well, Lindsay Lohan not so much. So when I think of this movie, that's the first person that pops into
I,
my.
I think for me it would work in terms of when I think of this movie, Rachel McAdams is usually the first person that I think of. However, if you were to say to me, name a Lindsay Lohan movie, Mean Girls would be number one for me.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that little bit of a difference where yeah, Rachel McAdams has gone on to do other things. So this might not be the first movie of hers I think of, but she is the first thing I think of when I hear the name of this movie. And I mean, just the year and a half that she went on right around this time, because this movie came out in April, and then this same year, I think just a few months later, she had The Notebook come out, which again, two massive hits. And then the following summer in 2005 was when she had Wedding Crashers, and we've all been inundated with Rachel McAdams ever since. And I mean, she's to think that one of her earliest movies was this about Cady High School, uh, Mean Girls, and then she went on to be an Academy Award nominee. She's in the MCU. She's a massive star. And I think if you look back at this movie, you can see all of that blossoming in her portrayal of Regina George.
Yeah, and she's practically a hometown kid. Sh- Not she's from not too far from here.
Yeah, just a few hours down the road. Which is, I always find that kind of cool. Like us being from Canada, it seems like most actors in that seem to be from the West Coast, from the BC area, and then when you hear of ones that are really close to us, I think that I personally am kind of like, oh, that's really cool. Like you could drive, I could get in my car and just drive a few hours, and I could be where Rachel McAdams was born, or I think I think Ryan Gosling's from that area too, isn't he? Or is he from BC as well?
Off the hand, I'm not sure, but
No.
I think he is from. I don't think he's from Ontario. I think he's from.
Oh, I might be thinking of someone else. I thought he was from Ontario as well.
Hmm, it's possible, but I don't think.
But no, so this movie, again, for anybody who's out there who hasn't seen it, takes place. I'm not even sure if they ever actually mention where, like where the town is, or oh, actually, that's not true because she says something about her mom got a job at Northwestern University.
Yeah, I'm sure they mentioned it, but I did not write that down. Like where they.
No, I don't think I did either. I just remember her saying Northwestern
Yeah.
um, University. So sorry about that. So that's in Illinois is Northwestern. So it's got to be somewhere in that region, which isn't very far from here either. So it's kind of you kind of get that it's that middle America type place. It's not like you're in California or New York or it's a very
It's the Midwest. They say the Midwest.
yeah, I was gonna say average type town, I guess. And so she goes there. Her parents were, I think she says, researchers or something to do with animals in Africa. And she's basically grown up. She's
Wait a minute.
basically grown up. The what?
The dad's not a janitor?
Nope. He should be though because that's the janitor from Scrubs, and that's his name is Neil Flynn, but he'll always be the janitor from Scrubs to anybody who's ever even seen a minute of that TV show.
Yeah, he's great in that role.
He really is. I mean, in this role that he doesn't have much, there's not much to do because he's just kind of
No, he's just dad.
he's just yeah. It's mom and dad, and he's only there anytime there's a little bit of a conflict, and he's on screen for maybe 2-3 minutes, and that's about it. But yeah, her parents are researchers or zoologists or something like that were based in Africa and had homeschooled Lindsay Lohan's character, whose name is Cady. However, it's spelled Cady, and that's the one of the running jokes in the movie is everyone pronounces it Caddy, which I'm sure I would do the same thing because that's how that's spelled. But they decide to, when they move back to the States, they're going to introduce her into high school and regular school and get her socialized. And because they, if she's been homeschooled her whole life, she doesn't really know how to interact with people, especially in North America, having grown up in Africa like that. So they want to get her acclimated to that culture type thing. And she's kind of thrown right into the deep end. And it's a very interesting portrayal of what high school was like. Now, I wasn't, obviously, I am not a female, so I don't know if this is what high school was like, at least at the school I went to, with the way the girls treat each other. I know there was some things that went on at my school in terms of cliques and whatnot, but I don't remember there ever being a group anything like the Plastics.
Well, no, I mean they're probably an exaggerated form, but in our high school, those type of chicks were there, but they weren't really mean, as mean as this movie at least portrays. I'm sure they were mean to each other behind closed doors, but they weren't like I
Not to the
guess
same, not to the same level.
not. No, 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 no. Absolutely not.
No, and that's, I mean,
So that
obviously
new
movies do that. They blow things out of proportion. They exaggerate that it's because it's good for entertainment.
exactly. But you knew girls in high school had beef with other girls and other girls that were in the same circles and even their friends. You knew it happened if you were friends with girls in high school. So, but when it
Yeah.
comes to plastics, like the most popular girls, I don't think that was as much as a thing, in at least in my high school.
No, I don't think it was in mine either. Um, I did find it kind of interesting when well, sorry, I'll get back to the general plot of this movie before we get into any kind of specifics. So yeah, when Cady begins high school there, she realizes that it's a completely different world and she has no idea how to navigate this world, and therefore what ends up happening is she becomes first friends with Janice and Damien are the two characters, and they're kind of, you find out they're art kids, and they're kind of what the plastics and other people kind of refer to as a little odd, but
Outcast,
yeah,
the misfits.
yeah. And so she becomes friends with them, and then in the process, she gets pulled into the plastics by Regina George as just kind of a happenstance, and because of that, Janice thinks it's a great idea for her to basically become almost like a double agent and spy on Regina and the other two plastics whose characters' names are Gretchen and Karen. And what she wants her to do is to spy on them and then kind of report back to her, and then they're going to perform like some kind of sabotage and embarrass her and things like that. And basically just kind of take her down a peg and kind of give her what's coming to her, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, because she has history with Regina, and she was. You could tell she was kind of waiting for this moment, opportunity to do this.
Yeah, she's extremely excited when the opportunity comes up, and she's like, "Oh my god, we've got to get you in there. We've got to do this. We've got to do that." And even at first, Katie's like, "Why? Why not just kind of let it be?" And she's like, "No, because she deserves it. Because she ruins people's lives and she does this." And I like that there's a you keep getting a little hint of what might have happened, and it's Damien keeps bringing up things like, oh, back in the fifth grade, Regina George did this, and just before he gets to kind of like reveal what it is, Janice cuts him off. Like, no, 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 stop talking. Like, no, we don't need to hear that. So it's a constant thing of like, what happened? Like, what is this? I guess obsession is the wrong word, but what is this hatred that you have? Where did this come from? And to the point where you're willing to use this new person that you just met as basically your own pawn, and just to kind of get your own, to carry out this plan of yours.
Yeah, it's like, dude, why are you so mad? Basically.
Well, and I think that's half the point of half the movie is if she, because if Janice didn't want Katie to do this, there would be no movie.
Yeah, well, yeah. Lindsay Lohan's character definitely finds out, uh, early in the movie that what Regina is all about, and this sets off the events of the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and I love I love some of the little one-liners that they get while they watch, or while this movie's going on. I was very kind of shocked that there were, I counted three in the opening. I would say 10 minutes of the movie, kind of blatantly racist remarks. Not in terms of like slurs or anything like that, but just kind of, I don't know. I guess I don't think it would be something that would be in a movie that was made like today. At least not as overt
Are you
as they
talking about?
were.
Are you talking about Lindsay Lohan?
Uh, so one was Tina Fey, and it was when
Yeah, okay, I get it.
When Tim Meadows comes in and he's the principal of the school, and he comes into her class and he says, "Oh, we've got it's Tina Fey is the teacher," and he says, "I want to let everybody know we have a new student joining us today. She's moved here from Africa." And Tina Fey immediately points to the black girl and she goes, "Oh, welcome." And the girl's like, "I'm from Michigan."
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those jokes that it's not too risque, but for some reason today you wouldn't really you wouldn't really joke about that for some reason.
No, and I don't when I say it was a racist joke, I don't mean in terms of like it would
No,
be overly
racial,
offensive,
not
but it was
racist, but
something
it's a
that
racial. It's a racial joke.
yeah, it was something that I don't think is overly offensive, but it definitely jumped out at me when I was watching it that I hadn't really
It's like,
noticed beforehand.
yeah, it's playful. It's like playful racial joke, which is fine. Which this is what you the comedy in this movie you will never you can't get away with today
No, a
because
lot of it you wouldn't be able to get away with.
only because they were just at least a lot of the movies in the early 2000s, especially comedies, they didn't give a shit. They kind of just did whatever the hell they wanted to do without any worry of offending any group at all. Which, as long as you're not pointing and laughing, and as long as the jokes are good and clever, I think it like in this movie, I think that's what comedy should be about.
Yeah.
And this is why I appreciate this movie a little bit more, only because I rewatched it and yeah, a lot of the humor you couldn't get away with today, and um, unfortunately, because you'll offend people. I like how they just weren't worried about that back then.
No, I mean this is the era shortly after movies like American Pie and no, they didn't give a shit about offending people or going over the top or anything like that.
Even though there is a certain group that you could, if you were that group, would find a little bit more offended than other groups. Uh, I would say the gay community,
You
but
think they would be offended by this movie?
only in certain parts. Like I love what was it? Who was the male character that was gay?
Damien?
Yeah, he's great.
He's one of my favorite characters in the entire movie.
He's one of my favorite characters too. But Regina George makes a comment and
Sorry.
that that would point towards you know being hateful towards that community.
Well, I mean yeah, it's something like that isn't acceptable, but the way that she's written, that's the character that she plays. And I know that's a cop out to say,
But
but
if like a Regina George were today, there's no way she would say, even though she would still be a mean girl, she wouldn't say anything like that in that, you know what I mean?
no, I know
I,
exactly what you're saying.
that's what I'm assuming. But anyways, that's But yeah.
Yeah, no. One of the things I really do enjoy is just the way, um, just the way the movie opens, and you've got the narration by Lindsay Lohan about it, and you see the opening shot of the movie is you see her parents. Um, what's her Cady? I keep wanting to call her Cady, even though I know that that's incorrect because throughout the movie, Janice is constantly calling her Cady because she thinks it's amusing because that's how her name is spelled. But for some reason, I keep wanting to do it too. Um, the way the movie opens is the camera opens. I'm sorry, it opens up on Neil Flynn and Anna Gasteyer, who play her parents, and the camera's looking up at them as if the perspective is from a little kid, and they're doing that like, "Oh, you're ready for your first day at school, this and that," and then you hear the voiceover of Lindsay Lohan, and she's like, "I guess the first day of school is a big deal for most parents. However, that's usually when your kid is 5." And then the camera pans out, and you see her as her age, and it says, "I'm 16." And I just found that as a really interesting way to open the movie, where they're looking at it, they're almost making it a perspective of, yeah, she's a little kid, but it's not that she's a kid, it's that her parents are treating her that way in terms of her going to school.
Yeah.
I really liked that opening.
Because technically it is her first day of school, so the parents are acting like parents that, you know,
And
would
it's
act.
really funny because they're doing we got to take the pictures, and they're putting her on the bus, or not putting her on the bus, but they're dropping her off right in front of the school, like, "Oh, have a good first day," and it just kind of
Speaking
makes me laugh.
speaking of bus,
Dude, it's everywhere in this movie. I didn't realize how much it's brought up.
well, they kind of foreshadowed it almost right away with it nearly hitting Lindsay Lohan's character.
Yeah,
Mid
I have the
com-
sec. There's another time they do it. Oh, I thought I wrote a note down of this. But yeah, there's a second time, and I forget how it is, but it's somebody brings it up like I could get hit by a bus or something, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember who said it, but now that you mention it, yeah, I did remember somebody saying something like that.
I do like that when she first becomes friends with Janice and Damien, they're walking her through the hallways because they're going to bring her to her class, which is in the quote unquote back building, which in reality is just them skipping class. They they're walking through the hallway and Damien's yelling out of the way, fresh meat or new meat. I
Yeah,
don't know why. I don't know why. I just find that so amusing, and I think a lot of that also is because throughout this movie, with Lindsay Lohan being from like growing up in Africa, she equates a lot of the way that people behave in this movie to the way the animals behave in Africa. So there's a lot of scenes where you have these teenagers literally on all fours running around as if they are animals. And I kind of found that as a funny little line when he said new meat, because I mean, that's exactly what you would be if you were just thrown into the jungle or into the plains of Africa and not knowing where you were or what to do. That's exactly what you would be.
exactly. And yeah, she makes a lot of comparisons to how animals behave to how life and the teenagers in high school behave. It's pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
it really is. I mean, she refers to it as girl world, which I have. I don't have much experience with that in terms of obviously the female cliques because I'm not a female, but it's kind of amusing the way that she kind of talks about that, like, oh, in the real world, but this is girl world. Things are different. Things are sneaky. You have to be careful of what you say and what you do, and it's kind of it's kind of amusing to listen to sometimes.
Yeah.
And
Well,
and again, I don't know if that's what it's like, because I mean, I couldn't I know
you,
high school for me wasn't like that, so I don't know. I can't imagine what it would have been like had it been if I was
well,
in
our high school definitely had cliques.
We did. I mean, our school had cliques as well, but I mean, I think I was one of the people that when I was in school, I kind of floated around between all of them. So
Hmm.
like we had like so in the first couple years in school, I was in our high school band and choir, so I became good friends with all those people. And then when I was in grade 11 and 12, I played football. So I got to be friends with all those people. So it was kind of a little bit of everybody that I would go around with. And I don't remember, like, in this movie there. So in our school, our cafeteria, they were just real, like, long tables. This one is and a lot of ones in TVs and movies, they're just like individual tables with 6 or 8 chairs. And so when Janice draws her the map, you've got the map of the cafeteria, and every table it says like, um, there's the plastics, there's the Asian nerds, the art kids, the um, I forget some of the other ones, but they're all different cliques that sit at their little lunch tables. And I don't remember anything like that when I was in school. We all just kind of sat with people who were in our grade, and that was all it really was.
Um, there
At least
were
for me.
there were like there were cliques, not to the point where it was so many, but there was a few cliques because I knew like the emo rock, punk rock, or alternative rock kids. They kind of all hung out around each other at lunchtime, and then you had like I guess the jocks, like a lot of the people that did most of the sports. They're mostly were together too. So there was a few cliques, but not many of them. Most of people they kind of yeah they all just hung around with people that were in the same class.
Yeah, because you go to classes every day and you end up becoming friends with those people. But I find it funny that it's not only this movie, but almost every other, especially high school movie or TV show. It's like in one school, there's like 15 or 20 different cliques and groups of people that hang. And I'm like, I don't remember school being like that. Like, yeah, like there were groups, but it wasn't like 15 or 20 groups of 6, 7 people in a it was there were a few, like you say, there were the jocks, there were, I guess, the quote unquote burnouts, which half the time at my school those involved the jocks. But
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't the way it's described in this movie, in terms of the amount, like you say. But
It
I,
could be
I
it could be an American thing. They do have
it
a lot
it
more
could it really could.
people at the same time, so it could be a specifically American thing, having because there's so many more kids that they could just form cliques, kind of like prison.
That's a very interesting comparison.
I mean, yeah. I mean, comparisons are kind of there, but yeah.
That's something definitely to think about.
But no, no. In Canada, we do have cliques, but it's not like the cliques in the states.
Or at least what movie and TV shows
Any
was.
clique, yeah.
No, I do enjoy. Sorry, some of the things that I love most about this movie is some of the quotes, um, they just, I don't know what it is about it, but they just, like the one, and again, as much like I said, I love the character Damien. Um, I like when they're going to that back building, the quote unquote back building, when they're skipping class. I like when he's looking at her schedule and he says he's reading through her classes and she's like, he goes, "You're taking 12th grade calculus? Why?" And she just goes, "I like math." And he just immediately goes, "Ew." I don't know
Yeah.
what it is about that, and I think it's because I've never liked math, but I identify so much with that line.
Yeah, because that's what everyone who doesn't like math is thinking in that moment.
But I will say it's followed up by an equally great line written for Lindsay Lohan when he asks her why you like math. She says because it's the same in every country.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really um, interesting answer and something that I never would have thought of before. Like, it is a universal language that, like you say, regardless of where you are, what
I'm,
language you speak, it's always the same.
I was like, you thought of that Lindsay Lohan's character. You thought of that. That
No, Tina Fey did when she wrote it.
exactly. It's like, okay. But I appreciate that line, or at least that the character said that, because that's actually pretty prolific when you really
Yeah,
think about
I love the scene when they're right around that time when they look over and they see the all the plastics are in the same gym class, and you kind of get them describing who each of them is.
it. Right?
And I like when they show Amanda Seyfried's character, Karen Smith, I think is her name.
My twin.
Uh, yeah, your twin.
We're all part of the same club, the Gollum Club. It's me, her, Mike Wazowski, Ocula from Small Soldiers. Just a
Oh
bunch of
God,
just a bunch of big eye people.
I will say I like like I say when they're doing those introductions and they talk about how stupid she is and they're like, oh yeah, Damien had English classes there last year. He goes, she asked me how to spell orange.
Right? That line, it's okay. This movie is one of the reasons why it's great is like you were saying, like the lines. I think everyone who has seen this movie has at least
Oh,
two,
dude, I could quote.
three, four quotes or lines from this movie forever embedded in their head. There's one line, that one with the orange. For some reason, I'll never forget it. It's always in my head. I don't know why. It's just random.
No,
Maybe
mine is the one right after that.
sorry?
Mine is the one right after that when he's talking about Gretchen, and they're like, "Oh, she knows everybody's business," and Damien goes, "That's why her hair is so big," and then he whispers and he goes, "It's full of secrets."
Oh yeah, I did say that.
Again, I don't know what it is that about that character. It just every time he's on screen, I am just in stitches laughing.
I'm probably gonna say this a lot, but especially with this review, but he understood the assignment
Oh yeah,
and he wasn't given much, but hey, he knocked it out of the park, man. Almost every time he was on screen, man, he said something that would make me laugh.
oh yeah, he's great in this whole movie. Um, I mean, I really don't think there's a bad performance personally in this movie. There are some that are better than others,
I
but
wouldn't say bad. I wouldn't say bad.
no, I don't
No.
think anybody's bad.
No, I think every character in this movie, like I said, understood the assignment, and I think they all crushed it.
Yeah. Well, and the other, and then so then you have those two descriptions of those characters, and then when they decide to when they do the introduction of Regina George, it's not them who do it. It's because I believe it's Janice's character, Lizzie Kaplan's character, who says, "How do you describe Regina George?" And then it starts showing a bunch of different students saying things about her, and the two that I always remember is the one kid going, I hear her hair is insured for $10,000."
That's funny.
Or the girl at the very end goes, "There was this one time Regina George punched me in the face. It was awesome." Like, it just shows you the level that they make this character out to be of. She's this horrible person that you, as an outsider, you can't understand why anybody would want to be around, and yet everyone who is in the circle in this school just worships the ground that she walks on.
I think it's almost ahead of its time because this is 2004, so social media wasn't really a thing back then. But she's almost like if she almost seems like if she has like thousands of Instagram followers or whatever.
Yeah, that's really exactly what it feels like.
It's just whatever she's doing, she's very popular, and a lot of people follow everything she does and says. Yeah, it's almost like she would. Yeah, if she was today, she'd that would be the reason why she can get away with being so mean is because she probably would have million of followers.
Yeah. Well, and then you really start, as the movie progresses, you really start to see that it's not even. There's nobody who's really off her radar that she won't fuck with. To the point where it's even like you start seeing. She finds out that Cady has a crush on her ex-boyfriend, and and Regina brings it up to her over the phone, and she's like, "Well, yeah, because Gretchen told me." And aren't you super pissed at Gretchen? And she's like, "Yeah, it was it wasn't a great thing for her to do, whatever." And then it's revealed that they're secretly on a three-way phone call, and that Gretchen's listening to their every word. And it's like, if she's supposed to be your friend, why would she be doing something like this to you?
Which I don't know if that's a thing amongst women or girls, but if it wasn't, it became a thing because of this movie.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that wasn't a thing before, that because of this movie, it influenced a lot of, I guess prank is the wrong word. I don't even know what word to use for it, but attacks, I guess, on other girls.
Yeah.
Which is a really underhanded way to do things like that.
Some slimy shit. But yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, even later in the movie when she says to Cady, like, "Yeah, I'll talk to him for you, and maybe you guys will be able to go out, whatever." Well, then at the party the Halloween party that they're at, she's talking to him, and from across the party, Lindsay Lohan's character thinks like, "Yeah, she's talking to him, like she's gonna get me in," and then all of a sudden she kisses him, and they get back together and it's just because Cady likes him that Regina's like, "Well, no, if I want him back now, like you can't have him, he's mine," type thing. And it's like, even these people who are supposedly your friends are fair game for you to play your little manipulative game, I guess, with them.
Yeah. Again, I think why a lot of women like this movie or connect with this movie is because I'm assuming that a lot of female relationships, friends, they probably do a lot of this shit.
I would assume. Now, this could just be me, assuming, I guess, yeah, but also hoping that
This is no
as
this is no less like than the drama that we see on like a lot of those early 2000 teen drama shows where, you know, the high schoolers were hooking up with each other and cheating on it. So, I mean, hey, but the girls weren't as mean, but they were still doing some underhanded stuff
oh
with
yeah, absolutely.
with
What
their
I'm
so-called friends.
what
This is
I'm saying though is I'm hoping that this is more, at least in real life, not in the movies, and that if this stuff does happen, I'm hoping that it's more localized to things like high school and then even maybe a little bit into college. But as people grow up, that they grow out of this type of behavior, because if
I
you're an adult pulling this type of shit, like that's pretty bad.
don't know, man. You watch a lot of those stupid reality shows. There's a lot of those housewife shows. I don't know. I mean, they are on a show, so
But at this, I've always looked at those things as like, how real is the reality of those shows? You know what I mean?
most of them have writers. So I'm assuming it's not.
Exactly. It's not like,
uns-
and I mean, I know that it's not the most real, but like even shows like Big Brother or Survivor or Amazing Race, those are, I consider, more reality, because there's actually like there's a game there's a goal towards at the end, whereas like the Real Housewives shows, it just seems like drama for drama's sake.
True, but people watch it and get influenced in a way, even if it's subconsciously, and they tend to, sorta in some way act a lot like the people that are on reality TV shows, unfortunately.
And yeah, I know, I just don't understand that world personally.
Yeah. I mean, we hope it's not as accurate as the Mean Girls movie portrays women against each other, but it's got to be somewhat.
I'm sure there are nuggets of truth.
Yeah, there's definitely some truth there.
Yeah. I mean, I will. I do have a note written here now that we're kind of around the Halloween um, scene. So again, in her narration, which I really do like Lindsay Lohan's narration throughout this movie, it helps add to almost like us as the audience going through all of this with her as she's transitioning into to high school and whatnot. I like that she discusses that Halloween is basically the day that the girls just unleash their inner slut, and they can basically just wear almost like lingerie and a pair of animal ears. But she didn't get that memo, so she shows up at the party as like a zombie bride.
My favorite part of that sequence when the girls are all, dressing slutty. I don't know whose dad it was, but it was one of the dads they show, and he's fucking basically crying. He's like weeping.
Oh yeah, I want to say it was Regina's dad, and her mom who is played by Amy Poehler, and she knocks it out of the park in that role. She's hilarious, but I think she's taking pictures of her or something like that, and her dad's just like so depressed about the way his daughter is just leaving the house.
Bad. Yeah, he's in a bad place, and I thought it was so funny him just being so distraught over it. I was like, it's just funny.
Oh, I like even the line where Lindsay Lohan in her voiceover, she's like, "You could basically wear lingerie as long as you have a pair of animal ears," and it shows Amanda Seyfried's character. And they go, "What are you supposed to be?" And she goes, "Duh, I'm a mouse," and just points to the ears on her head. Meanwhile, she's wearing like black lingerie that barely goes past her waist.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't you see the ears? I'm a mouse, guys. But no, as I was saying, the note that I have written down. Now you might have to go back to this part in the movie to actually to see it. If you, I don't know if you'll be able to picture it, but the scene where Regina kisses Aaron Samuels and Cady sees it from across the party. the look on her face, and I don't know what it is because she's wearing a black wig and it's not the teeth. She's got like the crazy fake teeth, but that's not what does this. The way she looks, all I can see in that moment, and I don't know why, but she looks just like Liv Tyler to me.
Really?
I don't know why. I will try and get a screen grab of it, and I'll try and put it up on one of our social media pages for any of the listeners who might want to see this, and so you can see it as well. But for some reason, that's all I see in that scene, and I don't know why. And it's been that way probably since I first saw the movie.
That's interesting. I did not see that, so I would be interested.
I mean, honestly, as someone now who has kids, and I have daughters, looking at this movie now, I'm like, if my girls ever tried to leave the house dressed like this, I would lose my shit.
Hell yeah.
I mean, it's bad enough when you've got the Halloween costumes and that, because theoretically, I guess you could argue that they would have left the house wearing something else. And then, I mean, you see Regina leaving, or you see some of the girls leaving, but it's like theoretically you could argue that they could leave in one outfit and then change and their parents would never know. And that, I guess that's one thing. But later in the movie where they're at the talent show, the Christmas talent show, and they're wearing the little mini skirts and no way, no fucking way. Would I could never, I couldn't see somebody being the parent of a 16-year-old girl and just being like, yeah, that's fine, go for it. Or at least the majority of parents, I couldn't see that happening.
No. No, definitely not. It's definitely exaggerated. And the fact that in reality at the time they were not the age that they were playing.
No, I think Rachel McAdams was like 27 or something when she played in this movie.
So you know that they're not that young, so you don't. But yeah, you have to feel for the parents in the movie.
Oh yeah, I mean, you feel for some of them. I mean, Amy Poehler plays a character that she's so it's almost like she was one of those girls who was picked on by the mean girls in school, and now that her daughter is what they refer to her as the queen bee of the plastics, it's almost like she's trying so hard to live vicariously through her because she didn't get that type of experience in high school that she wants to.
I get the sense that she's just didn't grow up. Like she was that person in high school, and she just
Oh, so you're the other option, the other way that she's just never changed.
exactly, and she just wants to be the cool mom. She
I
doesn't
could
want
see that.
doesn't even want the label as a mom. She'd rather have, still kind of be in that world and
Yeah, I could see that.
have that label as mom.
I mean, those are there's some scenes there with Regina's little sister that every time you see her, she's doing something else ridiculous. Like the first time when Cady comes to her house after school, she's dancing she's like shaking to the fucking Milkshake music video. And I'm like, well, she's basically copying the dance from the Milkshake music video. Now, if any of our listeners don't know what that is, it was a song that came out around this time, and some very scantily clad women and provocative type dancing. And this, I guess she's probably like 8 years old, is copying it. And then later in the movie, she's literally in the background, you see her watching like a Girls Gone Wild commercial. And the little girl's facing the TV and starts lifting her shirt as if she's imitating these girls from Girls Gone Wild. And Amy Poehler, as her mother as well as Regina's, is just, yeah, that's fine. This is what girls are gonna do. This is what my kids do. Like, it is what it is. And it's like, no.
it's a bit, again, almost a little bit ahead of its time because, we live in the TikTok age, and a lot of the mothers that there's a lot of moms on TikTok that they kind of dance pretty provocatively, and the kids definitely are seeing that, and they see their mom doing it and thinking it's okay, and then you kind of see them start to do those very same things.
Yeah. And what kind of worries me, not worries me, but scares me, I guess, is the way you out in public, just going to the mall or something, the way you see some of these teenagers dressing. It's very concerning.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'm not okay with these kids wearing, especially, anyone under freaking 18, is yoga pants, man.
Yeah, that's a little much.
Yeah, it's yeah. You, these girls are dressing now like they're in their 20s more and more, and I really don't agree with it.
Yeah. And I know that we are probably coming off sounding like old men, but I really don't care.
Yeah. I mean, if I was a goddamn kid, sure, I'd be. Hey, I wouldn't fucking would be all about all that stuff. But now that I'm older and I see that, and it's like, no, yeah, I'm an old man. I'm gonna yell at the cloud.
Yep, get off my lawn. No, and there's again, like you said, this movie is very. It was. I don't know if I'd say ahead of its time, or it just more brought those things to light that might not have been thought of beforehand. Because I mean, even if you look at, like, for example, a movie like Clueless that came out in '95, that's another teen movie about high school girls. They're not dressed that way or behaving in that type of manner, but so I don't know if this movie was, like you say, ahead of its time, or if it was just kind of bringing to light an issue that was already there that nobody really talked about as much. And I mean, not that it got talked about, but it just kind of was right there in front of your face. Like, this is what these kids wear on things like Halloween and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, Clueless. Yeah, it definitely had a lot of the same, addressed a lot of some points that Mean Girls did, but not since it was in the 90s. This was in the early 2000s, so it's a lot of generational differences.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot.
But that's actually a note that I have a note about when they do the winter or Christmas talent show, whatever you want to call it. I have a note that says Cady's parents' reaction to the talent show outfits is 100% spot on, because they see her in that and they're like, "What the fuck is she wearing?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is the right reaction.
It's definitely what any parent's reaction would be seeing their 16-year-old daughter wearing something like that.
One, but then you've got another issue with this is through the movie they're trying to get Aaron Samuels to realize that Regina's cheating on him. So they keep trying to bait him to go into this projector room in the auditorium, and the one time they get him to go in there, you do get two people in there who are making out, and it is a teacher with a student.
Yeah.
That is something that has not only has it not aged well, but I don't think it probably was in great taste when the movie came out.
Hell.
And I know that there have been stories about things like this in the past, and it's very upsetting that those types of things happen. But I mean, and then the worst part of it is, so I guess now we'll bring up the burn book. Is that gets put into this burn book that the girls, the main three mean girls have made, is this burn book that has all of the girls in their class and things that they've done or that they kind of talk about behind their back about them. And eventually throughout the movie, that burn book, spoiler, that burn book gets released to everybody in the school. And it's a line that's later in the movie that if the fact that there's a scene in the movie that portrays a teacher and a student together wasn't bad enough, you go later in the movie when all the girls are fighting with one another, that coach, teacher, whatever he is still employed at the school after this, after he is caught with this student, to the point, and the reason he's still there is because they use it for a joke, because he's separating two girls from fighting, and you get Tim Meadows yelling at him, and he just says, "Coach, step away from the underage girls."
Well, I think the book came out that day, so they just didn't have time to process that. Plus, it's
So are you telling me that when Damien, who's the one who drew Aaron to the auditorium, are you telling that Damien and Aaron Samuels, who caught the coach or the teacher, whatever, with this student, you're telling me that neither of them reported it and that he was able to keep his job?
apparently.
That's just kind of where I have a bit of trouble suspending my disbelief. Is I would think that at least one, if not both of them, would say something.
You would think a student would definitely say
Or you would
something,
hope at least.
because that isn't okay at all. If they were in college, yeah, a little taboo, but still, everyone's
Not great, but it is what it is, or they're adults.
exactly. But high school, god damn, that, yeah, the fact that that the dude was caught, I didn't realize he was caught in an early scene with the chick, but yeah,
And I never caught that until this rewatch. Is later in the movie, I'm like, wait a second, he's still there, which means he's still employed at the school, and it's not like it was later that day.
no, yeah, because the principal found out when he got the burn book.
Which is, I think, is like weeks, if not months, after the initial catching or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. The principal and staff knew about that at the same time at that day. But yeah, the fact that he was still kind of employed, no student went forward with that information is kind of, I mean, it's a risk that this comedy wanted to take, and I think it it's, it was ill taste then, and I think it's still pretty in bad taste today. Even more
Yeah,
so.
I couldn't agree more with that statement.
That would be almost one of the, if don't have a lot of negatives with this movie. I think that those jokes, or that bit that they thought was going to land, it fell flat on its face with me.
Yeah, I think so too. It was just a part that was kind of like, that didn't really need to be in here. That it's not important to the plot. It's not.
No, it kind of like,
It was almost just there for shock value, I think.
yeah, completely unnecessary, and it kind of it pulls you away in those specific moments, because the comedy throughout the movie has been hitting.
Oh yeah, I think this is a great movie, and I think from start to finish, it's a phenomenal movie, and I think that is one of the few missteps of this movie and of this script.
Yeah, pretty big misstep.
So to talk about this burn book, the whole concept of it, it was very interesting to me, and I don't know if anything like this again has ever happened, but just to have these three girls, and I mean, I keep saying three, even though Cady is a part of them now. She didn't originally contribute to the original burn book. Now, what they basically did is they cut out pictures of all the girls from their grade from the yearbook, and they would put things like the one girl they say they call her a fat virgin, or another girl they say she made out with a hot dog, and just stupid little insults
It happened
that.
once,
Pardon?
but it only happened once.
Yeah, that's what she says later.
How the fuck do you make out with a hot dog?
The
Trying to
only
picture that in my head.
I don't think it was making out. I think it was, for lack of a better term, I think it was literally they're insinuating that she was like blowing a hot dog.
I mean,
That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
I guess they couldn't say it because it was PG-13.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't say it specifically, my head immediately goes to making out with a hot dog.
Well, that's where
I wish I would have seen that. Somebody.
Well, because that's what I was thinking about when it first happened, and I'm going, how the fuck would that? And when it didn't make sense, that's when I kind of started to think that way. But that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'm surprised my brain didn't make that connection or go there. But I just wanted to picture somebody try to like kiss a fucking.
Yeah.
To actually make out with a hot dog.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting the way this movie goes is the sabotaging that Cady is doing on behalf of Janice is actually starts going in extremely well, because they've got this whole thing of it's a chalk. I always laugh at it because it's a chalkboard and it says Aaron Samuels, hot body, army of skanks, and those are the three things that they need to take care of in order to take Regina George down. So first they get Aaron to break up with her, and then with her hot body, she keeps constantly throughout the movie referencing that, oh, I need to lose weight, I need to do this, I need to do that. And so the way they do that is Cady gives her these nutrition bars that her mom used to give kids in Africa to help them gain weight, but she tells Regina that they will help her lose weight. So throughout the movie, they just keep showing Regina George as she is. She's gaining a little bit of weight here and there, but then as that's happening, her whole persona and outer look is changing to she looks downtrodden, and it seems like they start to put I'm thinking it's the makeup department, put like little acne and pimples and things like that all over her. And I mean, there's even one point, it's another quote that I wrote down because I laughed so hard when she said it, is when they're in the cafeteria, and she throughout the movie, she has said that she's on an all carb diet, which I think is the opposite of what a lot of diets are, but
yeah,
she literally looks at Lindsay Lohan and she goes, "Is butter a carb?" And I don't know why, but that line just kills me every time I hear it. And she's got like a little side eye look, like, tell me what I want to hear. And this is the point where they basically tell her that she can't sit with them because she's wearing sweatpants on Monday, and that's against their rules. And it's kind of like she's being replaced with Cady at this point. So Regina's revenge, I guess, is she's going to take this burn book that these girls have made. She she cuts out one last picture, glues it in, and writes something, but you don't see what she's written or who the picture is.
I mean, you would assume that it was going to be Cady.
You would assume it would be Cady or one of the other two, if not all three of them.
Yeah.
And then the next scene it shows they're in the principal's office and they call Cady in. I think they might call all three of the girls in, I believe. And they basically bring up this burn book and they're like, who did this? Who's responsible? And they're like, well, not us. It was Regina, or it definitely wasn't us. And they go to the last page, and the last page that Regina has put in is a picture of herself. And what I had it written down, I can't seem to find it. What did she write? Regina George is a fugly slut or something like that?
Yeah, she might have said something more than that, but that's exactly what it started out saying for sure.
Yeah. So of course the principal's like, well, if she did this, why would she put her own picture in? Like, come on, like, give me a break. There's something here. And
No, diabolical.
Oh no, not at all. But of course she has this persona. The teachers all love her just as much as anybody else. And then it devolves into, you hear just chaos outside of his office. And Regina has photocopied the burn book and basically thrown it all around the school. So all these girls are now reading these things and are starting fights because it'll be like, oh, I told my best friend about this, and obviously they didn't keep their mouth shut because somebody else found out. And so it just devolves into this giant girl fight throughout the school, which, again, it portrays them as animals the way Cady sees it, and you hear all the animal noises and things like that.
Dude, amongst the chaos, I forgot. There's like this little kid. He calls his mom and he's like, "Mom, can you pick me up?"
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
scared. Just the way he said it.
I'm scared.
It was so funny, man.
It's a really interesting scene, and then that's when you get the Tim Meadows with the coach, stay away from the underage girls.
Oh, he ran. He ran. You know that
he took off like a bullet.
Out the country. He's in Mexico. That motherfucker left the country.
Oh yeah, he took off like a bullet out of a gun.
I was like, oh shit, the jig is up. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, so in response to this, they decide that they're going to have to do an intervention with all of the girls in the school, which this is one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie. And Tina Fey is kind of in charge of it because the movie kind of portrays her as the female teacher that the kids they feel closest to, I guess, maybe, or relate to the most. And I don't know if it's because of her age or what the reason is, but so she's leading this whole thing, and I like the one she says to them, who here feels, because somebody says, like, why are we here just because of what somebody wrote in a book? Oh, it's Regina who says that. Like, some of us are just victims. And Tina Fey goes, how many of you feel like you have ever been personally victimized by Regina George? Every single hand goes up. And then the one, I think it's the secretary and Tim Meadows' hand goes up.
Everybody's hand goes up.
And then the confessions, when she has them write the confessions and then do like the trust falls. That's another quote that I say it out of context all the time, because through the movie, Damien is showing that he wants to hang out more with the girls because he's gay and he feels more comfortable around them. And so he's kind of snuck himself into this, even though it's supposed to be only the girls. And
Yeah.
he's got the hoodie pulled up and the sunglasses so nobody can recognize him. And there's this random girl who's up on the stage giving her confession, and Damien just yells out, "She doesn't even go here!"
Yeah, that shit was funny.
Dude, I quote that all the time. And it's just in random situations. I'll just say it. I don't know why. There's no context to it. I just think that it's funny.
One of my favorite things he said was when they have a falling out with Katie's character, and he's like, "I want my pink T-shirt back."
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
But even that scene when they're when they kind of have the breakup of the friends, when they call Cady like, "You're really plastic, like you're not pretending anymore," as Cady says, because he's driving his car very slowly because he keeps saying he has a curfew, and Janice is talking through the sunroof, and and Cady goes, "Janice, I can't help it if you're like in love with me," and he slams on the brake and he goes, "Oh no, you did not."
Yeah, no, yeah, he's I became more of a fan of his character through my rewatch.
Oh yeah. Well, even when they do the talent show and he sings "Beautiful" by
yeah.
Christina Aguilera.
It's like, don't look at me.
That's the best part is when he comes out and he looks at the piano player and he goes, "Don't look at me."
That motherfucker's funny, man. He's fun. I'm surprised he's not in other things, or at least starred in other things shortly after this movie.
Yeah, I am too. I looked him up. He is a comedian, which I might check out some of his comedy if he's got stand up specials in that. Because yeah, I think he to me he's one of the funniest parts of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But then they do this, yeah. So anyways, they're at this confession part, and there's there's three that stick out in my mind, and the one is the girl in the wheelchair.
Yeah, then I do a trust fall with
Well,
her.
everyone's doing trust falls, but the girl in the wheelchair says, I'm trying to remember the exact quote, and she says somebody's name, and she's like, I don't hate you because I think it's like, I don't hate you because you're fat. You're fat because I hate you. And then she just falls, wheelchair and all.
Yeah, she was funny.
The other ones are the Gretchen Wieners when she's doing like, I'm sorry that everybody's jealous of me, and I'm sorry. Like basically, she's apologizing for nothing, but still coming off as just that conceited, spoiled, basically the exact character that she is. And when she goes to do her fall, everybody moves except for Amanda Seyfried's character, and then she just lands on top of her. And the other one is I don't even remember if it's in the confession or if it's um, just when they're sitting on the bleachers before that confession scene. But it's the girl who said Regina George punched her in the face and it was awesome. Is she says something about they wrote that I forget what they wrote about her, maybe about being a virgin or something like that, and she goes, "It's not my fault that I have a heavy flow and a wide set vagina."
No, yeah, they thought she lied that she is a virgin.
That's what it was. I don't know why that line from the first time I saw it right through until this rewatch is one of the lines that I laughed the absolute hardest in this movie. And I don't know why. I just find it hilarious. The way that the line is delivered by that actress.
Well, I think because Tim Meadows' character was like, okay, let me get a hold of this. Let me.
That might be what it was too.
And then the first woman that one of the first people he talks to, she says that, and then he just gives up.
Yeah, back to you.
He's like, I can't do this. It's just
No, I like the conclusion of that with all the girls in the school and like them all kind of coming to terms with And even like Tina Fey says to them, she's like, "You've got to all stop calling each other sluts and whores, because then it gives everybody else the power to be able to call you that and get away with it," type thing. And that's very true.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, women did not learn the lesson from this movie because they are still continuously calling each other these names.
If not worse.
Yeah.
Like I said, though, I think it's a good wrap up with the girls, and then the wrap up with Cady's character is she was forced to join these mathletes, and they go. I think they're at like trying to win the state championship or something like that for the mathlete program or competition, and it's another that I've quoted many times where there's if somebody asks a question when she gets asked it at the end of this, if somebody asks me a question and I don't know the answer or something like that, I'll just look at him and go, the limit does not exist. And if you know this movie, you immediately know what that is. And she gets it right. They win mathletes state championships, I guess. And then she gets to come back for the spring fling dance, they call it, and where she is named Spring Fling Queen. Oh my god, I can't believe we missed the bus.
Yeah. I was waiting to jump.
I just thought of that as I'm talking about her being the queen because of what she does with the crown. I can't believe we did the bus because they'd have that big blow up.
And you knew it because a movie trope is when they when they set the camera up in this way where they had I don't know. You could just tell that she was gonna get hit by a bus or a car or something.
Well, I'm rewatching it. Not that you don't catch it the first time, but rewatching it,
Don't.
you catch the plants.
Yeah. I mean if because they do it in so many movies, I wasn't aware at the time because I didn't catch on to the trope. But yeah, rewatching it, even if I it was my first time watching it after knowing the tropes, I would have definitely would have picked up that she was gonna get hit by a car or something.
Yeah,
But no,
yeah, and
it's
that's exactly
still
what happens.
she gets smoked.
Oh yeah, full on because it's the two of them are her and Cady are having a screaming match basically in front of the school, and Regina just backs up into the road and gets hit by a bus, and then the next time you see her, she's got like the whole headgear with the rods into her shoulders to keep her head straight because she's obviously has like a broken neck and a spinal injury and all these other things. Um, but it's nice because, like I say, at the end of the movie, when they're at this dance and Cady is named the queen, she takes the crown and she kind of says like we're all up here and we're fighting over one another for this, and all of this is just a piece of plastic, and she starts breaking it, which again is another Damien when he does the gasp when she breaks the crown the first time. And she goes, there's a piece for Gretchen, and there's a piece for Regina, and there's a piece for so and so, and then she just tosses the rest of it, and she's like, because we're all our own person, we all deserve this type thing. It's not just a one person deal. It's we should all support one another. Kind of is the whole message of it. And I think it's a really good way to end that. And then you get the epilogue afterwards with it shows the following year of them coming in as I want to say as seniors the next year, and it's
Yeah, because they were juniors, and then there's seniors. I think it works.
Yeah.
It goes. What was it? Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior.
Yeah. I think they're seniors when it shows the next year, and there are still cliques, but now they're more inclusive. Whereas like, um, they're not. Again, they're not the same way they were in the beginning, where there's one group might have I can't even think of the word I'm trying to say, but like Regina's in. Oh, it says Regina uses her physical therapy to get in touch with her anger, and she takes it out on by playing sports. So she's now kind of with the jocks, but she still acknowledges Cady when she walks by. And the only one who didn't really learn any kind of lesson is Gretchen, who is now with the cool Asian clique, and she's kind of, as Cady says, she's serving a new queen bee. She's really the only one who doesn't have any real arc or learn any kind of lesson, and doesn't. Her character basically is the same at the beginning as it is at the end of the movie.
I mean, I'm glad that there were a lot of character development, especially in our main characters. But yeah, I mean, there's gonna be. I like how they portrayed not everybody changed.
Yeah, because that's realistic. Not everybody would. As much as you would want them to, they wouldn't.
No, people are gonna be how they are.
Yeah. Well, and then it shows. I like that it shows the like a new generation of freshmen who look exactly like them with the skirts and the whole thing, and they're like, and in her voiceover, she's like, "Well, there's always going to be a new up and coming group of plastics, but we know how to deal with them." And then it shows these three girls get hit by a bus, and then it's like, "No, just kidding," and they step off, they avoid the bus, but it's kind of a joke that like we know how to deal with them, and it's like I hope that's really not how you're going to deal with this if these girls get out of hand too.
Yeah.
But so that's Mean Girls. Again, I still can't believe this movie is going to be 20 years old in a matter of a couple of months.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about that.
I mean, considering this movie it just kind of clicked in my head that it'll be 20 years this year that I graduated high school, because again, that's why this movie is so near and dear to my heart. Is it came out when the year I graduated high school, so I was right in that world when this movie came out, and there was a lot of things that I was able to relate to. Even though the movie is about the girls, you can see um, you can kind of see yourself in some of the different characters, the way they little quirks and little things that they do. I mean, I can't I can't believe it's taken us this long to bring up Kevin G.
Yeah, I mean, I
I don't know what it was. I thought he was so great when I watched this when it came out. This rewatch, I found him amusing, but nowhere near as much as I did in when I first saw the movie.
yeah, no, I just thought he was just a cringy.
Now he is, but at the time I thought he was great. I don't know why. I don't know. I thought he was hysterical when I first saw him. I'm watching it this time going, yeah, not so much this time. I mean, you're a little bit amusing, but it's not what I remember.
Yeah, no, I always he wasn't. He would probably be my least favorite character, even though it didn't annoy me to the point where I hated his character. But he was just a little just cringier than
Yeah.
I. But hey, he's supposed to be a teenage boy. That's a lot of them are like that.
Yeah. No, they are. I mean, I knew a lot of them.
Right, especially during 2004.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't expect that things have changed a whole heck of a lot, though. Unfortunately.
No, no, just the only thing changed is the music.
I won't even talk about current music. That's a whole other topic that I will just go down a rabbit hole on.
Exactly.
So, like as I said, that'll be the end. That's the end of Mean Girls, and I think we'll throw it over to you first for final thoughts. What did you think of this movie? Whether it be back then, now, both.
Oh, I loved it then. I still love it now. Um, Ain't much changed how I feel about it, given it's been years since I've seen it. Um, this movie basically was the definitive high school teen movie for me, because I was around the same age as the characters were supposed to be. Um, yeah, I absolutely enjoy this movie. I love it. Um, it's one of those movies that you can quote all day, and even though it's not really one of the movies where you watch once a year or every couple years, when you do a rewatch, you appreciate it just a little bit more. I think the comedy is something you aren't gonna find again. uh, and I would recommend it for anybody who hasn't seen it, especially if you were a bit younger and kind of want to at least get a glimpse of how we lived back then without smartphones and stuff, but also probably could connect to it today with the themes of how the plastics in that world works and is handled. Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that you said, and I like that you brought up the idea of smartphones because I was thinking as I was watching this for this rewatch that this, apart from things like smartphones, this movie could be made the exact same way nowadays, except that there were no cell phones, and um, I think that would have changed the movie a lot because I think it would have eliminated things like the 3 and 4 way phone calls that they do because kids nowadays use so much of that FaceTime and things like that, and you're not really able to do those like hide who's on a FaceTime call type thing. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The comedy in this movie holds up. The themes of this movie hold up. It's an incredibly enjoyable watch. It's great acting. The characters are portrayed very well. And it's great to see a lot of these actors and actresses at a younger age and see them before their careers kind of took off, before you get the Rachel McAdams and Oscar movies, or in the MCU, or things like that, or before Lindsay Lohan had her downfall. Yeah, I would highly recommend this movie to, as you said, anyone who hasn't seen it. What I would really enjoy doing is I would love to see what would happen if this movie was screened for a group of high school seniors and see what they thought of it now 20 years later, like you say, and see how we kind of grew up and how we approached high school, because I remember watching things like The Breakfast Club and um, movies like that when I was in high school, and that was kind of the same idea 20-25 years beforehand. So I think that would be a really interesting thing to do. But yeah, I would highly recommend this movie. Yeah, It's a great watch. It's a lot of fun, and like you said, the comedy is just spot on throughout the entire movie. It's fun. It's entertaining from start to finish. So if we go back to on our rating scale, I would give this probably a 7.5 out of 10. I don't think I'm going to go too much higher because again, it is a teen comedy movie. There's not a whole lot of depth or I guess movie make like in terms of things like there's no the soundtrack isn't great. There's no like score, the cinematography, stuff like that. But it is an enjoyable movie. I would say it would be. I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, no, that's a good score. I'd probably, if I were to score it, it would probably be that too. I'd give 7.5 as well.
So we're coming in just a hair above the IMDb, which is at 7.1, but that's okay.
Exactly. No, we have a personal bias towards the movie because it was kind of made for us at the time. So
Yeah, I think there's a lot of times that high school movies come out, and if you're of that age, it's kind of your movie type, like your generation's movie. And I think that this was probably the main one um, for our generation. We were obviously super bad hadn't come out, and we were a little too young for when for to be that age when American Pie came out, things like that. I think this is the one that really falls right into the main one that falls into our time period in high school.
exactly.
So that's going to wrap it up for our discussion on Mean Girls, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. And like we said, you guys go out and watch the movie, and hopefully you enjoy it as much as we do. So moving forward for the podcast next week, we are going to delve into. I think it'll be. Oh no, it won't be our first superhero movie, but I believe it'll be our first Marvel movie. It's not the MCU, but it is a Marvel movie. In honor of the new Disney Plus show Echo, we are going to go back and we are going to watch Ben Affleck's Daredevil. I'm both excited and nervous about this movie. Rewatching it, that is.
Nah, it's good. It's a masterpiece.
I love Daredevil, but we'll see if my my opinion can be changed on that one. But just before we sign off here, I'd like to remind everybody that you can get a hold of us through email at geekedoutpod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter or X. I'm still going to call it both at geeked_podcast with a capital G. On Instagram at geekedoutpod, and you can also follow us on YouTube. And I'd like to ask everybody out there if you could rate and review us, it'd really help us out and to know what you guys like and what you want to hear more of or less of, things like that. And thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And we will talk to you guys next week. Take care, everybody.
Peace.